Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Let us thank God for the gift of faith we receive at our baptism. And let us the same grace of faith for those who don't believe. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So this morning we will work on two topics. First, we try to understand a little bit what we mean by the word infinity of God, and we will end the class by how God possesses the perfections of creature. So I will try to synthesize what you have in your papers. First, when we speak about infinite, we must be attentive if we apply infinite to material reality, or if we apply that to spiritual or to God. Infinite material or spiritual reality. Oh God. Well, when we speak about material reality, if we speak about infinite, that means absence of limit, absence of determination. That means it is imperfection. So in the material, the word finis in Latin means limit. Finis means limit. So infinite, that means there is no limit. For example, in mathematics, we use the concept of infinite. We say a straight line is infinite, from minus infinite to plus infinite. But we have a segment on line, AB. That determines, and that is a limited line. That is the line in reality. But that is not the line in reality. It is infinite, and determined. In fact, for us, when we speak about material reality, if we say infinite, that means indeterminate. And to be indeterminate is not a perfection. It is an absence of perfection. If I ask you a question at the exam, at the game, and you give me a very vague answer, to give a vague answer is not a sign of perfection. A sign of perfection is to give me a precise answer, with a limit, clear. So that is what we say here. So I go to the text. Theoretically, in geometry, for example, and for man, second, actually, extension is always found limitation. When we speak about extension, we understand some for borders, some limitation. So to be actual, in fact, in material reality, is to be limited. And to be actual is to be limited. And to be infinite is this an absence of limitation. Therefore, is an absence of perfection. Okay? Now, in God, it's applied that to God. When we speak about God, we speak about the infinity of God. But what is the meaning? In God, it's completely the opposite. The opposite. If you put a limit on God, is God still God? No. So God implies no limit of perfection. So because he is outside of material reality, he is outside of composition of act and potency. We are always to come back to that. In God there is no mixture of potency and act. Therefore it is pure act. If I say pure act, it means complete, infinite perfection. no limitation, because potentiality is a sign, is indicate there is not totally, I realize, not totally complete. We are in potentiality, for example, to become a teacher, to become a priest, to become a social worker. You are in potency, but it is a sign of imperfection. To be in potency is not, to be actualized is a sign of perfection. But in the case of a creature, every creature is a mixture of potency. Well, we saw that the first proof of God, existence of God, is this motion. We are always changing. If we change continually, it is because we are in potency. We are not perfect. Because we are not perfect, we can progress. I told you, progress is a sign of imperfection. Is a sign of perfection, is a sign of imperfection. Progress is a sign of perfection. That means you are, if you progress, you are more actualized, but you are not totally what you can be. So when the idea of progress implies always a limit, a potentiality. So in God, if we say finite in God, will be a sign of imperfection. What is a sign of perfection in material reality is a sign of imperfection in God. You understand that? But because the argument against the infinity of God is there. They say, you know, for us to be finite is a perfection. But you see, God cannot be delimited by any potentiality. Therefore, that is imperfection in God. No, it's not imperfection, it is a perfection. So when we speak about God, we cannot use the same categories as we speak about material reality. So if you go to at the bottom of the page, under the rectangle, only the actual in the full, add here, after actual, add in the. You have actual, and after that you have fullness, between actual and fullness in the. So actual, in the fullness sense of the word, and not actual, but infinite. I mean, the correction are made? No. No? Okay, so I read the sentence, because there is two mistakes in the sentence. And only the actual in the fullest sense of the word is infinite, not actual. You delete actual and you write infinite, okay? Otherwise the sentence has no meaning. Huh? You follow me?
Mm-hmm. So it should say only the actual.
Okay, I read the sentence.
Yes.
And only the actual in the fullest sense of the word is infinite and perfect. Okay? So only the actual in the fullest sense of the word is infinite and perfect. Okay? Because the sentence has no meaning. I should correct that, but you know, I forget. It's a sign of maturity. I consider the text of St. Thomas. You know, prime matter is infinite, but it is infinite in potentiality. Why? Because prime matter has not a single determination. It is purely in my mind. Prime matter does not exist. Prime matter cannot exist. I will ask, can God create prime matter? No, because prime matter is absence of determination. God does not create absence of determination. He creates a reality. Okay, so God, so prime matter can be infinite, but for prime matter to be infinite is not a quality. It's an absence of quality. It's a pure potentiality. Okay? It's a concept expressed by Aristotle, prime matter. But God, in at the other end of the scale of being, is infinite in its actuality. So prime matter is the absence of determination, and God is the fullness of determination. He's determining infinitely by himself, you know. So that is, God is infinite in his actuality. What do you mean actuality? Act. Actuality. Act. What is act? What is the first act? To exist. So God is totally perfect in the quality of his existence by himself. God is pure actuality. There is no potentiality in God. Okay? I go to the next page. So I think we must not forget, it is that when we speak, we remember when we studied the predicable, the predicament. Huh? And the first predicament is quantity, and the second is quality. Okay, so quality, quantity necessarily imply limitation. Because if a quantity is not limited, it has no reality. A quantity implies necessarily limitation. A quantity. Okay? But a quality, does a quality imply limitation? No. Does not imply limitation. In itself, a quality has no limit. The concept of beauty, for example, the concept itself does not imply any limitation. The concept of truth in itself implies no limitation. The concept of justice in itself implies no limitation. That is very important because, why? Because quality does not imply quantity. They are two domains totally different. Quantity is limited necessarily by matter, by quantified matter. We call that the principle of individuation. Principle of individuation. We are different not by our form, because by the form we are similar, rational animal, but we are different by our, not by our matter, because the matter is indeterminate, but by quantified matter. That means the matter in quantity, because quantity is limiting, you know. So we are limited. My matter is not your matter. And one of the characteristics of quantified matter is to be impenetrable.
To be what, Father?
We cannot penetrate, you know. They are opposed. For example, okay, you see, when we study physics, we see that we can take two volumes of gas and put that in one box. But what will be the consequence? The pressure will be double. Double. The quantity is the same. The volume can change, the quantity is the same. That means not a single proton or single neutron can merge with another. That is it is the foundation of extension. Extension is based on the fact that matter any kind of matter opposed to other matter because of the quantity. Okay? So quantity, but quality does not imply quantity. Because quality does not imply quantity, there is no limit to any quality. In itself, a quality does not imply any limitation in the definition. You cannot say, for example, justice is a virtue, leading our relation with others, and we cannot say in a limited way. No. the justice of God is without any limitation. And the concept of beauty, for example, is not limited. So we can apply the concept of beauty to God. The concept of truth is not limited. So every quality in itself, in fact, is open to the infinite. Is not unlimited by its nature. It's not in the nature of justice to be limited. It's not in the nature of love to be limited. It's not every quality, every virtue in itself is not limited. And justice. Of course, for temperance, we are limited in the fact that it's in the body, you know. But in itself, the virtue by itself, and the quality by itself is not. But I insist on that because when we speak about God, we speak about the perfection of God. We must be aware that it is possible that God has, the perfection are in God infinite. Because they are qualities independent of matter, independent of quantity. Okay? And that many times I spoke to you. Quantity does not make quality. You can put a ton of rock, you don't have a diamond. You can put a ton of diamond, you don't have a baby. You don't have a flower, you don't have a tree. Because life is not matter, you know. Quantity, and quantity cannot make quality. Quality. Life is quality, but matter cannot give life, you know. Yes, brother.
But doesn't you spend more of a quantity of time on, say, a project, and you're gonna have a better quality?
Okay. Oh yes, quality can. Yes, in our for us, the quality is not totally applied. You know, it's not totally predicated to us. We are becoming just. We are becoming true. We are becoming. We are not now exactly, totally what we have to be. Because we are progressing, no? You are intelligent, but do you use your intelligence absolutely, totally now? No. Otherwise, I have nothing to say to you. I will lose my job. That is important. Quantity and quality are fed. And materialists, they stop here, quantity, matter, and they pretend that matter produce quality. That is the error of for example, materialistic interpretation of evolution, for example. Okay? But I go to the text, page 8, at the top. Infinity means greatness in perfection, not in quantity. Be careful. Sometimes for us, infinite is quantity, space. No? Forget that. Try to forget that. Of course, when we speak about, we say, oh, that immensity of the sea, you know, quantity. But the infinity is not in the quantity. Infinity is in the quality, the perfection. Okay? So, the greatness and perfection. Now, infinity no longer means greatness of material magnitude or mass, but infinity means greatness and perfection. Outside the range of material magnitude, infinity is not concerned with extension, quantity, but with intensity of the quality, intensity. So we don't speak here about extension, but we speak about intensity. You can understand that from your own experience. For example, experience of joy. You may have a joy. Suppose you know that you lost your cat and your cat comes back home. Well, you are joyful, you know. But it's the same thing if your father go to the hospital as a surgery for a cancer, and when he come home, he is there, he is ill. Is the same joy as for your cat? No. The intensity is different. So the same joy, the joy with a quality, can be more and less intense. So in perfection, we don't speak about extension, we speak about intensity of the perfection. And in God it is infinitely intense. It is so intense that the perfection is one with his being. Is one with his being. Okay, we'll see that after. So St. Augustine said that in beings in which greatness is not measured by mass, but to be greater means to be better. Huh? To be greater is to be better. It's not to be richer, it's not to be bigger, it's not to be stronger, it is to be better. So intensity of perfection. Intensity of love. You know, it's interesting, we compare the life. For example, Saint Teresa of Lisieux, in her monastery, was doing exactly the same thing as the other sisters. Why Saint Teresa of Lisieux was a so great saint, and the other were good sister, but we were not great saint. Why? Intensity of her love. The intensity. So the perfection is not in the extension, is the intensity of love. Intensity of what you do. The intensity of joy. The quality is there. It's not in the quantity. It's so true that it's interesting in gastronomy. I take an example in gastronomy. You know, you go to a French restaurant and you ask, and you pay a lot for a good French meal. But many times you are deceived because there is not a big quantity. They don't want to make you obese, but they want to make you enjoy, to have an intense pleasure of, eating. Not the big quantity, but the quality. And when you go out, you are still hungry, but you enjoy a quality. You can listen to a beautiful song. If the song is very beautiful, maybe if it is not long, it is so beautiful. But you can listen to a long, long song, boring. The fact it is long doesn't make the song beautiful. So the beauty of a thing, the joy of a thing does not depend on the quantity, depend on the intensity. Okay? And the intensity imply for us our intellect. Our intellect. Because when you go to a gastronomic meal, you not a hunger meal. You enjoy because you are intelligent. Your dog will eat that in 2 seconds. Finish. Nom, finish. But you, little by little, for one, because it is very good, and also because it is very expensive. Okay. Interesting. Sometimes you pay a lot for something. A diamond. A diamond is only a little stone. A little stone, and you pay $2,000 for that little stone? It's stupid. Why you pay $2,000 for little stupid stone? Because it is not stupid. It is well done. It is perfect. It is radiating light. It is the expression of your love. Intensity. You can arrive and get a big stone. You say, "Oh, I love you. I give you a big stone." Yes, a quantity, big stone. A diamond is carbon. Carbon. Okay. You say, "Okay, I love you so much. Instead of giving you a little stone, I will give you a big piece of coal." It's the same nature. The coal and diamond are the same family, the same thing. But not the same intensity, not the same quality. You understand that? I'm sure. Okay. So the conclusion. Infinity of God means the goodness without limit. Goodness, perfection, with fullness of perfection. Inexhaustibility of being. It is being in the totality of being. And God possesses the absolute intensity of being. That intensity is infinite and cannot be measured. Even our intensity on Earth, we cannot measure that. Of course, in God, we'll speak about the immensity of God after. Okay, continue. Therefore, though the word infinite is a negative term, absence of limit, the word is, in the case of God, in the reality of God, infinity of God, is not negative, it is, on the contrary, very positive. The fact is not limited by any imperfection. Okay? Go now to page 9. In fact, to summarize that, what is limited for us in material reality, when we speak about absence of limit in God, infinity is on the contrary, affirmation of the perfect being, the perfection of being, etc. Now, a difficulty about that idea. Of course, that idea is not very clear. We accept that. Is that very? But go to. We accept that. I go to Concedo. It is true that when we define, we delimit. We saw that in logic. What is a definition? Is to delimit what is a thing through a genus and specific difference, or genus and inseparable accident. You remember that, But the part of the extension of our concept under the reality. In fact, what is the limitation when we speak about God? It is not in God, it's not the limitation of His love, of His beauty, of His intelligence. It's the limitation of our way of thinking. The difficulty is there. We want to think about the infinite with a finite mind. So we have to accept our limitation. And the limitation is not in the object we know, it is at the subject who knows. It is because I am limited that I cannot seize the infinite perfection of God. But what is interesting, I cannot seize that, but I can have an idea of that. But that idea is negative. That means, we saw that when we studied the analogy. We put apart, we stress on the quality and we put apart of the limitation. Okay. So now, nego. It is the applicability. What is the word applicability? Or predicability. Applicability or predicability. The capacity of to be attributed. We have a subject and a predicate, and the applicability is to take a quality here, we apply that to the subject. That word, the word applicability, or predicability. Predicable. You remember that? Predicable, the way we can attribute a predicate to a subject. Of the concept to many things that must be limited, because the need of the delimitation arises out of the fact that our thinking, my thinking, is done in universal concept which may apply equally to many things. So I have a universal concept, what is a cat, and I apply that to many things. So it's not the same with God. God is not many, it's not like when I speak about God, there is only one I can attribute infinitely the perfection. It is the unique subject, which is God. But when I speak about a cat, I speak about a dog, I speak about a man, and John is a Catholic, Paul is a Catholic. Catholic is attributed to many. But the infinite perfection, infinite here, infinite perfection can be attributed only to one subject. I continue. But it is the possession of its own reality, own being, that makes a being individual. What is what is the possession of your reality? What is your reality? It is your substance. Of course, with accident. But the foundation is your substance, your I. Okay? So it is, I come back, it is the possession of all reality that make me an individual. I am an individual because I possess a substance. I am subsisting. Subsistence. I have subsistence. I continue. And the more, not the fact that it has no more or other reality. I am not myself because they have other being. I am myself in myself. Huh? But it's the substance to exist in itself. So I exist in myself, not because other exist. That means the concept of the substance, of the subsistence of a thing, does not depend necessarily of others. Of course, every being is one. By the fact is other. But it is not the fact other exists that the one exists. If you want, it is not, if God exists, it's not because we exist.
Oh.
God exists without us, no? No? So the reality of the being is the same for us. If I am different from you, it is because I exist in myself. Because I have my own being. It is not you who make me existing. Okay? That, if you apply that, is important. If it is true for us, other does not make my existence. Of course, I depend in causality, but now your presence does not produce myself. I exist. You exist, and we exist as others. Everyone has his own existence, own substance, own reality. Okay? So a theory for God. That is very, very important because the creation is not necessary to God. God, it can be understood, if you want, is intelligible without other being. Like the flower exists without any person to see the flower in the forest. That means the existence of a thing is not linked with the existence of other things. We exist in itself. I exist in myself, and the flower exists in itself. That is substance. And the quantity exists in myself. Of course, the metaphysical notions are very important. Huh? Are very important. I continue here. In the square, in the rectangle. Huh? The limit, the limit of the reality is, okay, excuse me, but it is the possession of its own reality. The existence of a being does not depend on our knowledge of it. It is not because you know me, because you exist, that I exist. I exist in myself. Because I exist in myself, I am one, I am true, and I am good. No, every being is true, one, true, and good. And because I am true, I am intelligible. That means others can know me. I don't exist because they know me. But because I exist, they can know me. It is not the knowledge of, God does not exist because of the knowledge of men. I don't exist because you know me. But because I exist, you know me. Okay? That opposes those who say, God is the fruit of my imagination or my concept. Huh? So I continue. In its own reality, and not the denial of it of the reality of others, that sets it apart a distinct thing. We are not defined by what we are not. We saw that in logic. Huh? In logic, we see we cannot define by negation except spiritual reality. But it is not to say what I am not, I am not, I am not, I am not, that I would say what I am. So, in fact, God exists in itself, not because we know Him, because the Word exists. But on the contrary, the Word exists because He exists. Like you know me because I exist. So the source of knowledge and the source of the will, of the willing, is being, is the fact already we exist. Huh? Okay. Here is to affirm that God depends on nothing. If it depends on nothing, it is without any limit. No? If it depends on someone, it will be limited. But it depends on nothing, on nobody. Huh? So if we exist, we'll see that in the next chapter, it is by pure love. Totally free act of God, free love. Love, essentially, in its essence, is to give without receiving. In God, the love of God is to give without receiving. He cannot receive. Because if receive, it depends on us, no?
That's foreign here in the world. To hear that, that's very
He is
foreign.
totally transcendent, totally other. It depends on nothing. Okay. That means the infinity of God is not limited by His creation. It does not depend on anything. Because it depends on anything, on nothing, if we exist, that means He is the making us from nothing. So He is a creator. When we speak about infinity, that go very far. Huh? If I recognize God as infinite, that means without any dependence on nothing. And we saw that in the second proof. We call the proof by contingency. He is the only one necessary. It depends on nothing. He's totally apart. Because he's totally apart, he is limited by nothing. He's not limited in his love, in his knowledge. He's limited by nothing. He is infinite. But that concept is difficult for us. Because the concept of infinity we have is the contrary, implied limitation. Maybe it's very warm in the class, huh?
Yes.
Can you open the door, please? Because we are... Okay. I am in Florida. In Florida, it was very cold these days. Huh? Okay, next page. Page 10. So, just at the top, the possession of its own reality does make it finite, unless the reality is already limited. If for us to be myself is limited because I am not totally myself. Are you totally yourself? No. Because you are becoming yourself. All your life you are becoming, no? Of course, there is something permanent, but you are becoming in knowledge, becoming in love, becoming in age, becoming in wisdom, no? Okay? But in God, there is no passage for potency to act. Therefore, that which makes a thing individual and distinct is not that make it finite. So, I do not exist as one being because other being oppose me, and God depends on none other being to exist. Alors, the problem is for the objection comes from the pantheistic philosophy. So for them, you know, everything is the same substance. Now you have that in Spinoza. Huh? He's the modern pantheistic, not a Jew, but he was a pantheist. Huh? Because for him there was only one substance. In fact, the problem of pantheism is the university of the concept being. So being for them is being for God, being for man, being for any kind of being is the same thing. Or if you want, there is only one substance. Spinoza speaks about only one substance. Everything is the same substance. Plant, animal, and God, all that is only one. So he does not make a distinction. His approach is not analogical, because in the analogical approach we have some equivocity. That means something is different. I am a being by myself. No, I am a being by another. God is a being by himself. You know? So being is analogical. So the extreme importance of analogy. In fact, pantheists do exactly the same mistake as Parmenides. Parmenides, they affirm everything is being, only one being. He had a univocal conception of being, and not analogical, because analogy implies some difference, some difference. So there is something in common, but something different. So if we accept equivocity, that means being is not the same for God and for me. Now we can accept that there is a being in itself and being in another. But for pantheists, speaking about being in itself and being in another is not irrational. It is irrational because there is only one being. Everything is being. Okay. So the answer to the objection, I already spoke about that. The error is that being is univocal. And we cannot add things of different order. For example, we cannot, if God is, for us, God is being in itself as the cause of being, and I cannot add being in itself plus little being one, little being two, little, no. God is being outside of the series, outside of the series. So those who are pantheists, they cannot be. They cannot know God through analogy, because at the beginning they affirm that being, there is no distinction from being. So of course being of God is in the series. You remember when we studied the proof of the existence of God, the first cause must not be in the series. Otherwise it must be explained by another, But for them, no, they close everything in the series. So therefore, there is no distinction, real distinction, between God and His creation. And God is united, essentially, to His creation. Yes?
Would they argue then that, like, the universe is infinite, that it didn't have a beginning?
Okay, but when you speak the universe is infinite, it is the first sense, the first meaning of infinite, material, space. Space is infinite, that means we don't know the limit of space, But that is not the infinity of God, because the quantity is not the quality. So the infinity in God is not the extension. For pantheists, it can be, yeah. But for us, no. Of course, we can admire the extension of the universe and say, but we know that the one who provoked the Big Bang, the first instant of creation, is not in the series. It's outside of the series. Like Michelangelo is outside of Moses. Like Leonardo da Vinci is outside of the Mona Lisa. We know the effect, but of course we see that God is also present in the nature, because the nature cannot exist without Him. But He is present, but He is distinct. I told you, somebody say, oh my adorable tree, I kiss you, I adore you, I praise you. We cannot do that. But we know God is there. God is there. But He's not the tree. It's different to be the cause of the tree and to be the tree. Because they confound cause and effect. The effect, the tree, and God are one. But for us, the effect and the cause are distinct. Okay? Next page. Well, Father McComber gave you the example of authority in the state. We can take, for example, all the authority of people working for the state, putting that together. No, it is the same for being. The totality of the reality, meaning finite thing, does not make the totality of being. Because being is in God. God is being, is the infinite being, but is not in the series of little beings. Even if He is the cause of the beings, He is not being as them. He is the being as say by Himself, making them, creating them. This is the same thing. Okay? It's not the same order as the thing. For example, a cat engenders a cat. The cat is the series of cats, you know? But God, when He created the universe, create man, is not in the series. Because He is totally outside. He is infinite in His power. Power is a quality. Huh? His quality is infinite. He is omnipotent. Huh? Omnipotent. Omniscient. He is omnipotent. He is omnipresent. But He is not the tree, He is not the cat, He is not the finite being. But He is present. Not a single, as Jesus said, not a single hair of your head will fall without my permission. Sometimes they receive a lot of permission. Huh? God loves someone more than other because God knows exactly how many hair we lost. Huh? Okay, sometimes we find that funny. But philosophically speaking, it's very deep. It is very deep because it is to recognize that every air is sustained in existence by God. God is omnipotent, is omnipresent. Okay. I go to conclusion on page 11. So we must admit beyond finite the infinite. Of course, we never understand that perfectly. But we can understand something. So we must know, we must not wonder at the obscurity, because our thinking as its foundation is a finite experience. And we know everything through analogy. And the infinite beyond the experience. We know that no finite being can be ultimate explanation for the thing, our experience. Because, as the argument for the existence of God has shown, the ultimate explanation must be looked for in a being that is necessary and self-existent. The proof of contingency. I told you many times, for me, from my opinion, you are not obliged to share, and for me the strongest proof is contingency. I exist, but I don't exist by myself. The world exists, but the world does not exist by itself. Okay? Now, the conclusion, page 12. So we must admit beyond the finite, the infinite, even though we may not be able to have a satisfactory knowledge. We must accept in philosophy of God that we cannot explain everything. We must accept our limit. Like in science today, scientists should not be positivists. The positivists pretended to explain everything. But we cannot explain a lack of freedom. Can your father explain correctly, clearly, completely why he married your mother? Can you explain completely why you become a sister for that congregation or a priest for, you know, when my superior asked me when I was a brother to study philosophy instead of science, I say yes. And now after almost 60 years, I say, why did I do that? No, humanly speaking, I cannot explain that. Humanly speaking, I was not at all interested with philosophy. Not at all. I am frank, and not at all. Not at all. It was for me a waste of time. I was not inclined, not at all. And my superior asked me, and I said yes. And now I say, that changed my life completely. But why I did that? It's a mystery, but it's a fact. It is a fact. I said yes. Like your father said yes and your mother said yes. But why? We cannot explain completely. We cannot say, well, with the grace of God, it's a mystery. For me, it's a mystery. It's still a mystery. Certainly, the grace of God was there because I will not be here today. And you will never know me about the lost. You know, I don't have the golden medal of humility. Yeah. Okay, now let's go to another philosopher. He's not a pantheist, but he is a pragmatist. He is William James. William James, I quote him many times. When I quote his famous, if it is too cold, you can close the door. If it is too cold, because I see you are freezing. Okay. When I say, if you want to teach Latin John, you must know John. That is from William James. William James is a pragmatic. That means he judges the values of things to the efficiency, to the utility of things. So for him, what is God? He is a helper. You know, it is better to know God, to believe in God, than not to believe in God. It is very useful to the society to believe in God. Because imagine if people did not believe in God, we must maybe have 100 times more police than today. Huh? Because the majority of people, they obey civil law because they obey their conscience. And they obey their conscience because they have a kind of fear of God, you know. No, they have a relation with a God or many gods, something spiritual, you know. So that is, you see, God is a helper. And that is not too far from the reality for many Catholics.
Oh.
You know, when September 11, 2001, during 2 weeks, the churches in New York were packed with people. And the collection for higher than Christmas. No? But 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, funny, we don't need God now. You know, we need God as a helper. We are eternal beggar. Beggar. Yeah. There is a part of truth in what William James says. No? Many people, they go to church because they need God, or they make a novena only when they have a problem. They forgot to say thank you. And the word Eucharist means thank you. Huh? Okay? So I close my homily here. So, you know, God is only a condition to the success of society, to the good order in society. So it is better. It's the reason why in some communist country, even in Russia, they continue to keep the Greek Orthodox Church, and they pay some priests. It was better to keep that, you know, because it was useful to the Communist Party to have good Christians obeying the government because they obey God when they obey the government. In Islam, it's exactly that. Huh? Politics and religion are one. Okay? But I continue. Next. The belief that the universe is not entirely rational. Okay, another objection, there is evil in the world. Because there is evil in the world is not completely rational. There is an apparent irrationality in the world. So we cannot, but you know, God is useful. It's better, it is better to keep Him. In God we trust. Interesting. But at the same time, we don't allow people to say our Father or to pray on the football ground. No? We are not allowed to make a crash in some city because in God we trust. Interesting, the contradiction we can have in our society. Okay, that is parenthesis, the politics. Page 13. So now here, how we can prove that, the infinity of God? Okay, we go rapidly. First from the fact that God is of Himself, His own subsisting reality. And we saw that when we studied contingency, the proof of contingency. So God exists by Himself. I will not repeat that because that here is exactly what we studied when we studied the proof of contingency. A conclusion only. Therefore, God must possess the full possession of being. He is completely being by Himself, being, and the full possession of being, without any limit. Don't forget, God is pure act. And God is assez. From that, we are obliged to affirm that God exists infinitely. Everything is infinite in Himself. Because He's pure, He has no limitation. Potency is a limitation. And God is not limited by His attribute. I am limited by my attribute. For example, okay, man is intelligent. Man is free. I cannot say man is intelligence. Man is freedom. No. But God is infinitely. Freedom is essentially freedom. Is essentially love. is essentially a truth. He does not have, he is. You know, when Jesus had the pretension in the gospel to say, I am the truth, I am the way, I am the light. We read that very rapidly, but put yourself in the skin of the scribe and the Pharisees. It was for them the most horrible blasphemy you can say. Because Jesus affirmed clearly to those theologians, I am God. But when, we said, I am the truth, I am the... No. Think about the situation. I am the truth. I don't say I have. He did not say I am true. He said I am the truth. Think about that. That is a very strong affirmation. Jesus affirmed himself as God. Because only God can be the truth, the light, the love, and the every perfection, infinite perfection. Okay? I go to then a second reason in the middle of the page. From the fact that God is pure. We saw that pure. So there is no potentiality, no limitation. Third reason, page 14. The grade of actuality in being. Not every being has the same perfection. A cat has not the same perfection as a human being. Someone they think they are the same, but it's not the same. And a diamond is not a cat. And a man is not God. So there is a degrees in actuality, degrees in perfection. So the conclusion is, since God is not composed of potentially an act and possesses no potentiality at all, is not limited by any potentiality, God must be infinite in actuality. Is the one who possesses the total actuality. Prime matter has no actuality at all, and finite beings are mixed with potency and act, and God has only pure act, infinite actuality. But actuality is the quality to be in act. That means to exist. God is essentially existence. His essence is to exist. Next paragraph. God as creator, possessed of infinite power. So God as creator, we saw that because he depends on nothing, but the world exists, the universe exists, therefore it must be created from nothing. But he is totally independent from that. His power does not depend on something existing before. A sculptor depends on the marble. But God is not a sculptor, is not a maker, is not an architect, as the Freemasons say. He is a creator. Creator. Be careful, he's much powerful than architect and than a maker or a producer. He's a creator. The difference, he does think from nothing. It depends on nothing. His creation is pure act of love, pure act of disinterested act. Totally disinterested. Because we can add nothing to it. We see that in the future. So we can read the text of St. Thomas. I go now to okay. The text of St. Thomas, in fact, is divided in two things. It says form limits matter, and matter limits form. In material thing, matter and form depend one on another in material thing. He said, form limits matter. Why? Because matter is indeterminate. So form limits matter. But matter also limits form, because the form in itself has no determination. What makes us my soul, my soul, and not your soul? It is by my quantified matter. You saw that before, by the quantified matter. So in material reality, there is a mutual dependence. For example, my body and my soul. My soul depend on the mother prepared by my parents. And my soul now is determining my body, but my body is limiting my form. I know that the form of Saint Michael, of Saint Raphael, and Gabriel. I am the form of Michel Legault. You know? Okay. Now I continue. Now go to next page. So in fact, what is you see is that you see, okay, read the text. Form is made finite by matter. Okay, just after that. On the other hand, form is not made perfect by matter. You know, even if matter determine in individuality, not in quality. I can say I am myself because I have a body. But, you know, form is not made perfect by matter, but rather is contracted by matter. And hence, the infinite, regarded on the part of the form not determined by matter, as the nature of something perfect. So my form, even if it is limited by my matter, it is a perfection. I am perfect not by my as a human being, my perfection does not come from my body, it comes from my form. Because if there is no form, there is no body. You know, it's interesting, sometimes you think about that. When you are living, you have 3 trillions of cells. Okay? It's a lot, huh? And when you are died, all those 3 trillion cells are one. All your cells are one with you, one. And when you die, you are dust and we come back to dust. We celebrated that last Wednesday. Why? Because there is no principle of unity, of determination. So the form is a perfection, determining the matter. You know? Okay, I continue. Now being, okay. Therefore, since the divine being is not receiving anything, your form is receiving matter. But he is his own subsistent being. It is clear that God himself is infinite and perfect. God is not limited by any kind of matter. He is totally detached. So the fact he exists, his being is perfect in itself, not depending on any limitation, on any potentiality, on any matter. God is absolutely transcendent. So if he created the world, he is not attached to the world. He is not depending on the world he created. But the world is depending on him. That is very important because we speak about the infinity. Okay? So, well, you can read that. But the conclusion, okay, I have a few minutes to explain the last paragraph, how God possesses the perfection of creature. Well, you go to just the answer of St. Thomas in the middle of the page. All created perfection are in God, either as their source and model. God is the source, is the exemplary also. Hence God is spoken as universality perfect because he lacks not any excellence that may be found in the genus. That means God lacks any. If I find a perfection in a creature, it must exist in God. Why? Because we exist only by another. So if I am intelligent, if I am handsome, if I say beautiful, holy, it is because God is beautiful, is holy, is intelligent, and he made me share in his intelligence, in his beauty, in his being. So when we speak about causality, we speak also about participation. participate. We participate in the beauty of God, the intelligence of God, in the love of God. And therefore, this may be seen from two considerations. First, because either in the same formality, univocal or equivocal. We cannot accept univocal. We saw that when we reject pantheism. So therefore, it is only equivocal agent. God is not univocal agent of the perfection we have. He is the equivocal agent. I mean, he is different from us. His intelligence is different from our intelligence. But I am intelligent because he made me intelligent to his image. That is interesting. What we see in the Bible, we can find that in philosophy. Because an artist, when he does something, he has a model. So when God made us intelligent, the model of intelligence was himself. So God made us to his image and resemblance. Interesting. Huh? And that is, it's not only virtually, God is really the source, the model, the cause of our perfection. So if the perfection exists in us as effect, it must exist in the cause. You remember when we saw in the proof of God, if there is order, there must be an intelligence. If we are intelligent, if we have some goodness in us, we must say the one who made us, who created us intelligent as he is. Of course, as he is himself, we are intelligent at his image. At his image. We are not intelligent exactly as God is, but we are like him. It's interesting, like him. The grandeur of man is to be like God. Be careful, like, resemblance, not equal. Not equal, huh? Okay, you can do that by yourself. Huh? Now I speak about pure perfection. A perfection, pure, that means a perfection that has not in itself any limit. For example, beauty in itself has no limit as a perfection. Truth in itself has no limit. Intelligence in itself has no limit. But if I speak about rationality, reason, can I say God is reasonable? No. So that we call that a mixed perfection, mixed perfection. That means, of course, when man reason, he is passing from potency to act. God cannot pass from potency to act. But if man reason, because he is intelligent. So we can say that God he knows reasoning virtually. Virtually, because when he created man, he created him in such a way that man can reason, but God does not reason. He gave man the intelligent, able to reason, to know step by step what he knows in one instant from all eternity. You know? That if we are intelligent, but we reason step by step. Our knowledge is intuitive, etc. It is what we call mixed. And you go to page 19. So we discover, even in the mixed perfection, we discover also that God is as a perfection in that. The perfection of man as reasonable, rational animal, it is because of his intellect and his will. It's not because he is passing from potency to act, but because he is intelligent and he is as a free will. We are at the image of God, you know. So we have to take from God our limitation and to put in God the infinite perfection, but without our limitation. So the predication of this perfection in God is true, but incomplete. That means if I say, God, of course God does not reason, but he knows what is to reason. He knows that, because he knows exactly how he knows even what is commit a sin. He knows God, but does not commit a sin. But he knows. Nothing escapes his knowledge, no? It is not because I know what is a cancer that I have a cancer. It is not because I know Marxism that they are a Marxist. And those in Vietnam, they study Marxism, obligatory. They are not Marxists. Like a Muslim can study the gospel, the Catholic faith is not a Catholic necessarily. Huh? Okay? So, well, to summarize that, the pure perfection, that means perfection that does not include limitation, are directly attributed of God as the source, the cause, and the model. And we share in that because we have the effect, and we share in Him. That is, we call that participation. St. Thomas insists on that. Father McCormick spoke about little about that participation. But in fact, we share in the love of God. We share in the intelligence of God. Okay? And there is a why we are at His image. But we have some perfection because we are in time and space. Those perfections are perfection for us, but they are not perfection for God. And the best example of that is reasoning. Reasoning, or the human act. The human act, I remember, in 12 steps. 12 steps. And reasoning is also step by step the law of logic, syllogism. God does not need syllogism. He never uses syllogism. But He knows what is a syllogism. He knows very well everything you study. But He does not know that step by step. He knows that in one act of knowledge. Okay, He knows now it is time to take a good meal. For all eternity, this is His plan that you take a good meal. God bless.
Thank you.